everyone, my name is Kaikun6 and I'm here to do another episode of Playlist Stories. I started writing some stuff down just to talk about in this current episode. I have been trying to take notes and stuff like that, so hopefully I'll get through all of these notes for today's video for sure, because there's a lot I need to talk about this certain memory. Sorry, excuse me. I was moving my notebook and then now I moved my camera, so sorry about that. So as usual, I always listen to music, and there's a lot of memories that pop up in my head through music, and I feel like I wanted to talk about this experience because of the fact that I lived through it, and it was around the time when I was still probably in elementary school, middle school, that type of thing, and it was around this time where I talked about in a previous episode when it came to for my friend Zed, where he had a sister and we were basically kind of losing her right around 2002 2003, and then finally they the whole family moved out in 2004. So around that time we were kind of in a me and my sister, we were in a state of limbo to see what was going to happen to us, because now that our close friends moved out of the neighborhood, we didn't really like anybody that much in the neighborhood anyway, except another childhood friend of ours. But after that, we just we were kind of venturing out to go find new friends or stuff like that. It was just mainly my mom befriending somebody, and then they have kids, and then we were kind of forced to talk to these kids. And so I want to talk about these two individuals, and so I'll do that. But let me start off to say that this one was a very weird song, Get Low by Lil Jon. I remembered of course listening to this song a lot when I was little. I had no business listening to it, especially back when it was first released back in 2002. But it was funny because these certain people, especially the one I will talk about today, she was a few years older than me for sure. And she was just saying that this is her favorite song, so I have always associated this song with her. And whenever I listen to the song in my playlist, I always think of her and her sister. So the people that I'm talking about is I do want to use their real names, because I don't think even my own family are associated with them anymore, and I highly doubt anybody in my friends group or even in my family knows who they are. And if they do, then hopefully this means they're doing okay and stuff, because at a certain time I haven't talked to them. So let me get through it, because I do have some notes here, so stuff like that. So the people I will be talking about is two girls and their mom. And it's funny because my mom went through the stage of I was just knocking my notebook into the camera. My mom went through the stage of trying to make friends, kind of co-workers into friends, or just random strangers that she's met when she was living in Almonte, California at the time, because when she first came to the States, she used to live in Oregon and Washington, and then when a job opportunity came up for her to work in California, that was when she was staying, and so she ended up moving to Almonte. And from there she's met a lot of friends, co-workers, and stuff like that. And then eventually she moved to Ontario, and then she's been staying there since, back in the, I think late 80s, I want to say, probably 86, 87, around there. I'm not sure, I forgot. My mom told me, all I know is that your brother was very young. He was maybe 8 or 9 years old when he first moved into this house. And I was I do believe it, because back in 81 he was still he was born in that year, and he was trying to get used to making friends and then moving around, and finally he settled into in Ontario. And then he started middle school at some point, and then high school and this and that. So yeah, so anyway, so when she was still living in Almonte, she has met this woman through her job, I believe. And I don't know why, but once in a while I would think about her and her daughters, because there was a lot of stuff that went like they've experienced so much. And so I felt like I wanted to share this experience, because I was like, I just recently like listened to the song, and I was like, I have to talk about these people. So like what I have on my notebook is like, her name is Virginia, which is the name of the mother, and she has 3 kids actually. The only thing, sadly, I do not know the youngest one that well, because as soon as shit hit the fan for everybody there, is like we instantly just like my mom instantly was just like, I'm cutting her out of my life, because she is such a toxic woman and this and that. So I don't know the youngest, and it was a boy, but I did remember her daughters. The oldest one, her name is Teresa, and the middle child, she used to be like, it used to be just her, like the 2 daughters, and then she eventually got, like, Virginia got pregnant and then ended up having a third, which was a boy. So and the middle child, her name is Nancy. So I don't remember how long ago I've actually met them. I felt like I've known them for a lifetime for sure. But I remembered it was probably back in like, I don't know, 2004, 2005, I think. I don't remember. I wrote down here around 2001 or 2005, but honestly I don't remember because of like the timelines and stuff like that. And there were some times where when we had summer vacation, like me and my sister, we would spend summer vacations with not only this family but other ones, so that way we'll catch up on family, friends, like what they have been up to and stuff like that. And so I would believe like maybe it would be back in 2001. Like I wrote that, so I'm gonna go for that one. But so yeah. So like I said before, so Teresa and Nancy were these 2 girls that I forgot what their age difference was. I believe it was like 4 or 5 years apart for sure, because I remember when I first met Teresa, she was like maybe 15 or 16, and then the youngest was like maybe 9 or 11 or something. I don't know. I know there are like really huge age gaps between them, but there was a reason for that. And I didn't learn about it until I got a little bit older, especially with my mom talking about her experience with them, basically, but especially like their mother, Virginia. So it's so funny because my mom knows a lot of Virginias in her lifetime. Like, I've actually met all of them, but this one was the one that stood out to me the most because of how I don't want to say it, but then it's kind of true, because at that time she was a terrible mother. So this is what happened. So around this time, I what I wrote on my notes, that's why I'm trying to like keep track so that I don't have to ramble on, but I'm already rambling on. So yeah, there was days there were times like during summer vacations, right? Like, or even it could be on breaks, like if we didn't go to Mexico that year or we didn't went anywhere else, we would go visit families and friends and stuff like that, right? And a lot of which were kind of like, they were either, it was no gray area. They were either like very lovely people or they were like really horrible people. And their kids were always like really nice to us sometimes. And so this was kind of like the situation where terrible mother, but wonderful kids. So when my mom first met her, I think she was in the midst of a divorce, like Virginia getting a divorce from her ex-husband. And she had Teresa and Nancy, so they're like actually like blood related, like they had the same father and same mother, right? So they I don't know what happened. It was like she had a change of a lifestyle. Like she didn't know, like she was kind of like, oh my god, I'm actually divorced, I don't know what to do. So she started like dating immediately, and then within that time my mom got to meet like her boyfriend at the time. And then that was when things got really weird from there and a little bit sad. So I remembered spending summers literally around that time where it was like right after 2002 for sure. After like this the title of this video came out, like around 2003, 2004. Like I remember I was starting to lose my friend Cece. And I decided, you know what, like, I'm gonna see if I can make more friends. And then so I thought maybe Teresa and Nancy would be those friends. And honestly, they were kind of like temporary friends, and I felt bad for them. I remembered like my experience with them were not really that good or really that nice, but I remember my sister telling me like they were all right, but it was just unfortunate what they had to go through. And I agree. So, like, on those notes, it says, like, I did spend a lot of time with them at their house. And that was true. Because my mom always, was always getting taken advantage of by her friends and stuff like that. Because they would be like, okay, well, then how is this woman doing it? Because, like, she always prioritized her kids and stuff like that. But yet, for some reason, like, my mom always had money for everything, and so my mom would help them out financially with whatever. It could be rent, bills, stuff like that, or even food. And so my mom would try to bring over like at least a little bit of money and a little bit of food or something every single time for these friends, and then just and she never got anything in return. And we've been telling her that for years, that it's kind of terrible, this and that, but she never really seen it. She thought that maybe just like giving gifts like that would actually instantly, like, you know, make her likable and this and that, which that was kind of like her thinking at the time. And of course, a lot of family members have done that too, where they have taken advantage of my mom. And my mom had to stop that for a long time, because she never got anything in return. Like, nobody ever remembered Mother's Day, her birthday, or any of that type of stuff. So yeah, so anyway. So yeah, there was a time where I think it was back in 2003, 2004, around there, where I just remember like it was already summer vacation for me and my sister, and we wanted to like spend time at home, but for some reason we were not allowed to do that much. So we ended up just going to, with my mom, with everywhere. It could be shopping, this and that. And so we ended up going to El Monte, and we visited Virginia and her daughters. And that, at that point, I have met her boyfriend at the time, and he was, of course, a douchebag. Like, my mom instantly did not like her, so immediately when my mom doesn't like somebody, I just know that we're not gonna get along with them. So at this time, we around that time, I would say. So my mom would drive me and my sister to their house all the time, like almost every weekend or something during summer vacation, where we were basically kind of like entertaining ourselves by talking to Teresa and Nancy. I honestly did not remember their last names. I wish I remember last names, but I really don't. So Virginia was always kind of like a little bit courteous around us and stuff like that, but like for some reason she was very rude to my mom, and my mom kind of like went through the cycle of like, if you're not going to treat me nicely, I'm never coming over at all. And then so it went like that. So she would apologize for her behaviors and then treat my mom badly as soon as my mom showed up to her house. So it was really a very, very weird friendship right there. So yeah. So I remember I would spend time with them, and I remembered that house was always so hot for some reason. They had fans on and stuff like that, but it was always so warm. So whatever physical activity we were doing, we were sweating and stuff like that. But we actually had fun, at least, because we were trying to make memories and trying to make these girls' lives a little bit better, because we kind of noticed there was like something off about this family, you know, like me and my sister, we were kind of like, what's going on here, you know? And so we quickly found out through like years and years of hanging out with them, like on and off basically, that there was a lot of fucking bullshit going on, you know? And I kind of feel really bad about it. So what I heard about this, or what I wrote down about this, was that the only reason why Virginia took advantage of my mom was because, like, she was working at the time, but she wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. And then the husband was just like, no, because like I'm only taking care of you, I'm not taking care of your daughters. And it's like, okay, well then let me go earn my own money to take care of my own daughters. And so it became the, like, you basically kind of like pictured how that household went. Like, whenever Teresa or Nancy needed something from their mom, and the mom couldn't provide anything, it was hard on them to ask the boyfriend and stuff like that. So yeah, let's just say like it was just one of the reasons why she took advantage of my mom so much, especially financing and a lot of food, for sure, because he only bought food for himself or for Virginia, but he never wanted to feed the daughters. And if they wanted food, my mom would feed them and stuff like that. So it was kind of really terrible. It was so terrible. Like they were like skinny, you know, like they were like skinny, and like you could tell like they have put on a few pounds ever since my mom started feeding them and stuff like that. And eventually, of course, my mom's like, okay, I'm seeing that this is not going anywhere. She's not gonna leave her current boyfriend, this and that, so I just don't know what to do. And then later on, I remembered, I think at this point Nancy was 11 years old, and I think Teresa at this point, she was like maybe 16 or 17. I don't know. I know she was way older than me for sure, because Nancy was like between me and my sister, you know, kind of like, well, she was the youngest out of us for sure. But like, we were still kind of like, you know, trying to figure out like what was going on and stuff. So we found out that that guy, like, he's such an asshole for sure. He said that once they got older, if they wanted to get something like from school, they had to do a lot of like special favors, and I think you know where this is going. So what I wrote on here was like Virginia's current husband was actually sexually abusing them, like meaning Nancy and Teresa, and of course Virginia never believed them. So I remember this day. I think it was like, I know it was during summer vacation, and I think it was like around 2005. And I remember I was going in the transition of like from middle school to high school for sure. And my mom was like, hey, something is going down with Virginia and the kids, so let's just gonna go and hang out with them. And my sister and I, we kind of didn't want to go, but we were like, you know what? If we go over there, we're gonna go eat something, we're gonna get something to eat. My mom was just like, yeah, we're gonna go eat at Diana's, and which such an amazing restaurant. So anyway, but she also had another thing to do over there. Like, we were gonna spend a few hours over there, and then we were gonna go see like our cousin Alex, like, which if I have to explain this this person before, if not, I'll probably just like make another video of it. Just know that cousin Alex is not our cousin Alex, you know, like we've known that guy since we were like little kids, like really little, and we always saw him as like our relative, and so, but no blood relation whatsoever. So he became like one of like my closest friends growing up and stuff like that. And then once he started, you know, going to college and this and that, we kind of like drifted apart. So I don't know what he's doing now, but once in a while my mom would find out through his mom, and his mom is not a good mom either. Like, I'll explain that in a different video. So yes, so what happened was, Teresa at first, she pulled me and my sister to the side, and she didn't want Nancy to hear, but she was saying that her dad used to touch her and this and that, or the boyfriend, but he became the husband like maybe a year or so after. So they were recently married, they were going through the honeymoon phase, and then so now as like the stepdad, he was able to take advantage of the girls, and that was like a huge no-no, this and that. My mom was like overhearing this while she was trying to talk to Virginia, so then she finally confronted her about it, saying like, what the fuck are you doing, this and that. So Teresa was just like, yeah, this is what happened. And so he was just basically touching me in my sleep if I needed some school supplies, this and that. My mom flipped out. I was very confused, because I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean, like, he touches you at night? My mom instantly knew like what was going on, immediately confronted Virginia, and was just like, hey, like, and you knew this was going around. And she's like, I don't believe them. I believe they're just acting out because they're not getting what they want, and so this and that. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I think I know where this is going. And so it led to this kind of like Teresa just not trusting, you know, his mom, like her mom anymore. Just, she didn't want nothing to do with her. So at one point she wanted to run away, and eventually she did. I don't know like when she ran away, but I remember the last time I seen her, which I wrote right here, was back in 2006, like back when I first started high school. And she already graduated from high school at that point, if I remember correctly. Like I said, some age, like I remember what was her age, but then years have passed. So I just remembered as soon as she turned 18, she ran away. and she ran away with her boyfriend, and I don't remember if like she was pregnant or not or whatever, but all I know is that she refused to live in the same household as her mom. So there, and then so Nancy was there, and sadly she had to deal with the sexual abuse too, and she dealt with it up until she also ran away herself years later, which I was very shocked that was happening, and in such a young age too. So even then it was like, you knew that this was going on, and yet you did not like do your job as a mom to take care of your daughters, and that's why they fucking hate you. That's what my mom told her. And Virginia was basically doing crocodile tears, saying like, oh, I don't believe them at all, because they've been lying to me for years. Like, Teresa always sneaks out at night just to go partying, and the reason why she was doing that was because she was trying to get away from her stepdad. And once in a while, Nancy was doing that too. She would always sneak out with Teresa. They never came back for like a week or so, because they were like either with family members or they were spending time with friends. And so I just remember the last time I seen them, you can tell how desperate they were. Well, especially Teresa. She was really desperate enough to like leave. And I remember she told me like her plan, how she was gonna leave and all that. And then so I remember Virginia blamed me for Teresa to run away, and I said, no, it's not my fault. It's your fault that you chose your stupid ass husband over your own kids. And just because he was helping you financially for a lot of stuff, that still doesn't give you the right to let him do whatever he wanted, especially sexually abusing those girls. And so she did not believe it and stuff like that. And I remember it just became to this point where my mom was just like, okay, you know what? We're going to stop talking to her or stop hanging out with her. And so I believe she did went over to her house a couple times to see how she was doing, just in case. But it eventually led to this negativity that my mom felt in the house, and then she just stopped going. And so at that point, I don't remember, like, once Nancy did leave that house, I don't know if like the abuse started from there, because I mean, eventually, like, when there were no other women in the house, sadly, or any other girls, he basically lashed out at Virginia, like, for a lot of stuff. And you could tell that she was getting beaten in the house. Like, my mom said, like, the last time she seen her, she had a bruise, like, right here, I think, like, in her, like, one of her eyebrows, but you could clearly tell it was a bruise. And she had, like, probably some on her arms and other stuff. It was just terrible, right? And my mom was just like, you should leave him, do this and do that. And she's like, no, the only reason why he was mad was because of this. Like, she was making excuses, right? And it was not that good. My mom tried her best to help her, and then in the end, she was just brainwashed, and my mom did her best. And she's like, if this continues on, I will call, like, some sort of help. I will call the cops. And she was just like, no, I'll handle this myself. And who knows? After that, I don't know if my mom has ever kept in contact with her, but I know once in a while, whenever she's in town in El Monte, not only just to eat at that Diana's restaurant over there, and then she'll probably just drive around, you know, reminisce about the times that she used to live in El Monte with my siblings. I just know sometimes she'll drive down the street where I think she still lives there, or if not, used to live there, and then just remembers all the memories about, you know, those girls and Virginia and stuff like that. And so, yeah, the last time I seen them was back in 2006. And apparently, what I wrote down is, like, she is still with him. And, oh, yeah, and now I can bring up about their son. I forgot about that. So, even throughout this whole time, I don't remember that asshole's name, to be honest. And good thing I don't know his name. But, ever since he was married to Virginia, he wanted to have a kid. And she was just like, sure, we'll have another kid. And they had another kid, and it was a boy. And when I first met him, he was only a baby. And then, like, years later, like, he turned out to be, like, this toddler or whatever. All I know is the last time I seen him, he was, like, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And he had this obsession of like his eyelashes where he wanted to pluck them out all the time. And like my mom would tell him like, oh, don't pluck them all out, you're gonna regret it, because they're like very pretty eyelashes and this and that, and they could protect you from the sun. But he took it as like it was a girl's thing, and so he didn't want no eyelashes, so he kept plucking them out every time. And so I don't know, but anyway, but yeah, we don't know how his son is doing. I hope he's doing okay, and I just hope he wasn't sexually abused by that asshole either. But yeah, and then I wrote down this. I remembered I brought up my cousin Alex because of this part. At one point, my mom also throughout this whole time where this was going on, my mom was on the phone with Sophia, which is the name of my cousin Alex's mom. My mom met her also through a job, I believe. Like, I think she used to work somewhere in El Monte, and then they became really good friends, and then eventually friendships deteriorated and this and that. But for all good reason. I just remembered Virginia was curious, like, who were you on the phone with? And then my mom was like, oh, I was on the phone with Sophia. I believe I talked to you about her before. And it was just like, no, I don't remember her. And it's like, you know what? Like, I'm going to introduce you to, maybe you two will be really good friends. And then so at one point, Virginia got invited with my mom. They went out for lunch. And then Sophia showed up to this said area of lunch. They met each other, and instantly they knew that they were not gonna like each other for sure. Like, they tried to like reconcile a few times, especially my mom telling like, oh, you know, like Sophia likes this, and then Virginia likes this too. And so they thought maybe they could be friends through some mutual interests. And of course, the only mutual interest was taking advantage of my mom financially, for sure. Because I remembered, like, whenever we visited Sophia and Alex's place at the time, she's always asked my mom for money. She's always asked her to cook and clean and it was just so fucking messed up, you know? It was just like, oh yeah, but like when y'all come over to my house or something like that, or whenever they came to visit our house, they never, like they've only ever wanted to ask like good stuff, you know? And so my mom's like, oh, so we get like fucking water and bread while you expect me to feed you like a 5-star course meal in my own home. It's like, oh, fuck you, basically, you know? And so yeah, she always expected that all the time, like the Virginia and Sophia. And so at one point my mom started saying, we ain't coming over until you actually start doing these 5-course meals and stuff like that. And so eventually Virginia did that. She started cooking. And of course, me and my sister, we don't like her cooking. We've tried Sophia's and it's really good. It's actually a lot better than we expected. But my mom already knew that. She's like, yeah, they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to season their food well. So she would take advantage of the cooking unless Sophia and Virginia bought the ingredients for it. And of course, their excuses are, oh, we don't have any money for that. We don't have enough money to feed these kids, this and that. And so my mom would always have to, you know, pitch in to feed just me and my sister. And then they start complaining like, oh, so you're feeding your children but not mine. Like, we need your help to feed these children too. And it's like, fuck no, like, they're not my kids. And even so, that type of charity work is over. You guys gonna have to deal with this on your own, and so this and that. So yeah. And so yeah, like but I remember I wrote this down too. Yeah, they hated each other, like Virginia and Sophia, once they met. But they started spreading rumors about my mom being dead. So let me explain that, because I remember that was another thing that I remembered when I was listening to this song. So let me go close up my notebook, because that was the last of my notes. And that's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So at one point, somehow my godmother that lives in Nevada right now, and she is my godmother for, what was that? I think it was like baptism or something like that. I believe so, because at one point my mom had to baptize me and my sister when we were kids, and then so she didn't have like anybody that could baptize us at the time, and we were just babies. We had to wait till we were older. So at one point my mom was like, hey, I'm looking for somebody, and then she met my madrina, and then my madrino, and this and that, you know, or mi padrino, sorry. And then so this woman, and her name is Laura, like the madrina's name is Laura, somehow got into contact with Sofia, right? And then somehow they kind of like knew each other. Maybe they knew each other through work or this and that, I don't know. But all I know is when my mom found out that Laura and her knew each other, that was when like a lot of shit basically hit the fan. Because, you know, my madrina and my padrino, and then like their kids ended up moving to Nevada. They were like pretty good, you know, this and that. And then at one point, I was already in Texas when this happened. I think it was like my first or second year here in Texas, where at one point, my madrina Laura, she had to come to California to go see my mom, and then knocked on the door, and she was surprised that my mom answered the door. It said, like, basically she went white as a ghost, and she's a very dark woman. So she looked at my mom and just hugged her, and then my mom was like, what happened? You know, like, what are you doing here? You know, this is a surprise, because usually they'll call my mom or let her know ahead of time that, you know, that like we're gonna be coming to visit. And this time it was like a surprise visit, so my mom luckily was home, and she answered the door and hugged her, and then she started crying. Like my Laura started crying, and it's like, what happened? And so Laura said that your friend Sofia or whatever told me that you were dead, and I did not believe her, so I had to go come see myself, and clearly I can tell that, you know, you're not dead, you're here, I'm hugging you, this and that. So my mom was like kind of like being suspicious. She's just like, really? Like, why would Sofia say that? And it's like, I'm being serious, like that's what she told me. And then so she was like, okay, I'm gonna go investigate on my own. So apparently, yeah, I don't know what happened. Sofia started being, you know, a little bit of a gossip spreader, or she was just spreading her lies, and a lot of people believed her for some reason. And then Laura was one of them. And then finally she was just like, well, I guess, like, since I'm here, I want to get your number, this and that. So, like, my mom was just like, sure. And so once in a while, like, she'll hear something from Laura and stuff like that to see if they're doing okay in Nevada. And then they'll try to reach out to my mom once in a while to see if she's doing okay and if, like, they're home or not, because once in a while they'll come and visit. And so I always hear, like, whenever she comes and visits, like, I'll hear from my mom or my sister, this and that. So yeah, there was at one point that that Sofia started spreading rumors about my mom, and then I was like, that's a fucking dick move, you know? And then eventually it led to also Virginia spreading rumors about my mom, saying that she was dead or something else. And so, yeah, all I know is that, like, it's just fucked up that my mom has made these friends, and they were like really good people at first, and then they just started taking advantage of my mom. And then you know, then my mom had to go stop hanging out with them entirely. Like, I believe she did delete their numbers or something, I'm not sure, but once in a while, you know, like on the grapevine, she'll find out what they're doing. Like, both Virginia and Sofia see what they're doing. So yeah, and it's just fucked up. Like, they decide to, instead of, like, because they were being excuse me, let me go drink some water. Oh, excuse me about that. They, instead of, like, wanting to basically, like, talk to my mom face to face, they will rather just be fucking petty and just spread bullshit behind her back, you know? And it was like I said, it's not the first time my mom experienced this. She's experienced this also with family members, and they were like really close with her and stuff like that. So now, after seeing the bullshit after the years, now she's a little bit more careful. Like, she's like more, she's more aware. And if she hears some sort of sob story from somebody, she will not help them at all. Because it led to other friendships like that where they have taken advantage of her financially. And so after all that, it's like, you know, my kindness was not worth it. And I agree with that. And that's what my mom told me. So now she's like, I'm only going to concentrate only a few members of my family, and then the kids, and that's it. And so, yeah. Anyway. But I wanted to end that memory right there. I just remember, like, listening to this song just recently. I think it was, like, this past weekend. And I do listen to this song often, you know. But for some reason, just that past weekend, I was like, I have to talk about this because I just remembered that memory so vividly. And like just me talking about it, it was just like sort of a reliever, to be honest, because it's funny because it's not like a family secret or anything, or like, oh, you shouldn't be spreading stuff like that or whatever. But no, it was like mainly like it was just an experience that my own family has experienced, and all the crazy stories that we went through and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, I wanted to see like I say, is just this series is about getting to know me, and then getting to know like what kind of experiences I've have had in my life where it had led to this moment, this and that, and then what kind of people I have met. Are they still around? Are they like, have they left, this and that? And so I like talking about these type of stories, not only just for you guys to get to know me, but it's just like talk about it and stuff, like I said before. And plus, I have always thought that like whenever I share life experiences, especially in person, like I always forget, like, have I told this story before? Like, have I am I on a record, like, am I just saying it over and over again or what? But all I know is that only a few people knew about this experience, and I don't mind talking about it, the stuff like that. But I always thought maybe they might have known a little bit of this and that, so that's why I'm kind of like telling stories about it. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna see what I can craft in a bit. And and I just forgot I had this. It was a gift from my friend Molly. I went to go see her just the other week, and so yeah, she gave me like this doll, and she's really, really cute. So yeah, and I'm gonna go clean her up, to be honest. I don't know how long she's been in her shop or something, but just yesterday while I was in here trying to figure out what I was gonna do for a craft, which I haven't done yet, I had just been writing again. Well, sort of, but then I just been like kind of lazing around, just trying to enjoy my days. And then plus my husband and I finally put up decorations for Halloween, and so we have some right now in the dining room, and so we're kind of like just taking a break, this and that. And then so I was kind of like lazing around yesterday and today also, and I thought, well, I had an idea for a short story, let me go write that. And so that's what I was doing before I recorded this video. And then when I was in here yesterday also to see what else I can do, I smelled something funky, and I thought it was the doll, so I'm gonna have to go clean her up. And I think it was because I like, it was just a very foul smell or something. I don't know, it was just like, I don't know how long that doll has been in her shop for a bit, but like I know it's been through the ringer for weather-wise, so I'm just gonna go clean her up. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna see what else I can craft, and then maybe whatever I crafted will be for next week's video. So yeah, and maybe I'll do something with this too. I don't know if I have shown it before in a shopping finds video. I know it says clearance from Walmart, but I believe I got this, maybe it was at Walmart, but I felt like I gotten stuff like this before, either in Target or at Dirt Cheap or this and that. And so yeah, so we will see. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go clean up, and I'm gonna go write a little bit, and then hopefully do some more crafting, because I really want to do a lot of crafting this week. So yeah, so hopefully you guys have a lovely day and a lovely week, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, bye everyone.